might check out the data logger with the Yaris and the Nissan GTR. You can see, let's have a look at the driving line first, because they're similar but different. The dotted lines means that you're coasting. The triangular zigzag line is when you're on the brake. So you've got very similar brake points, but they're not exactly the same. Slightly different line. It's all down to the way both cars actually handle. But you can see they're quite similar. The Yaris, you can cut the corner a lot better, in my opinion. The GTR, it's more of a curve, you know, you're curving around the corner a little bit. You have to brake a little bit more heavily, you know, for that corner. Interesting. Now, I can change mode by going triangle, and this shows you like the real-time difference in the positions of the car. So the yellow line represents the Skyline, so you can see it's just got the edge in straight line speed. There, the Yaris running a little bit wide. So this is so that I can have this. With the control pad, you can't actually have this thing, this cursor. Right, so this is what I'm looking at. Okay, they're very, very evenly matched. Okay, so that is the beginning of the lap again. So let's have a look. So they're both braking. Off brake on the Skyline. Skyline hits the apex a little bit better there, but then runs a bit wider there. So, you know, swings and roundabouts really. Okay, slightly different brake points. Let's have a look at this a bit up here. So you got the speed and gap. Right, so the speed is presumably this thing over here, this bottom line, that trace. And you can see like the traces are very, very closely matched, but you can see like particularly up here, the Skyline has the edge in terms of acceleration. Braking performance is pretty similar according to this. Let's make it a little bit wider. Okay, I'm not sure what that top line is. I think it's meant to be gap, but I have no idea how to interpret it. I guess the zero line is that purple horizontal line, and I guess my top car is the Yaris, so you know, like it's ahead and then it's behind, something like that. Not entirely sure. Doesn't actually give a scale on the y-axis for the gap, although there is that speed one. Okay, so there's that again. If I press that, that equalizes them. Interesting. If you know like what that line is, just put a comment below. Let's change the thing so we can change by going change view like that. So now we've got things like throttle position. Let's make it a little bit wider. So I'm looking at this middle one. Okay, again, blue is the Yaris, yellow is the Skyline. And yeah, very different throttle positions. But you got the same basic thing, so there's something happening there. Interesting graph. Okay, I mean, this is down to gearing as well, you see, so it's, you know, I'd have to examine this a lot more. Okay, we can also go backwards and go forwards. That's the L2 and R2. You can also pause. So for example, this bit here, just gone past it. That bit. So the Skyline has got a big dip. Maybe that's a gear change. Yeah, in fact, it must be a gear change because look, that's got exactly the same trace as this. So this is all down to gearing. Let's continue. Press square to continue. Full throttle, full throttle. Gear change on the Skyline, gear change on the Yaris. And then, okay, this is interesting, isn't it? So the Skyline carries speed just a little bit further on that. Okay, well, let's have a look at the braking. So yeah, you see, this is the braking zone again. If you have a look at the Skyline, you're hitting the brake a little bit harder, or rather I am. Of the Yaris, not so much, and then yeah, so there's a little bit more modulation going on with the Yaris there, whereas the Skyline just hitting the brake hard, keeping it hard, laying off the brake there a little bit. Let's go back to throttle, like so. Let's play. So what are those blips of the throttle there? That's what it looks like. Why would I be blipping the throttle? Would that be a gear change? Yeah, of course. You see, like, even though I'm using a steering wheel, I use it on automatic. That's what that is. Let's continue playing. And okay, so you have to hitting the throttle a bit harder there for the Yaris, or rather, it's revving up higher because you can see, look there, it's revving up higher. And then you've got a few gear changes there. Okay, let's change view again. Speed and RPM. Okay, so for any given RPM, let's say it's 6. I mean, I don't know. I just got to say different traces there. And then we can press play. So it shows the gearing difference there. If I change that to arrows, no, it's not as fun. Cars is better. And then you can equalize the position. So you can see how the driving line changes. Again, there's the braking zone right there. Pretty cool. I like this data logger. You can have, it's obviously quite nerdy, but fun. Okay, back to the position. What is all of this? I can't change that one. Can I change this? No. Can I change that? Oh, centripetal acceleration. Now, this is quite interesting. I can't make it any bigger, but you can see the extremes. You got blue, which is the Yaris. So the lateral G on the Yaris is a little bit more than the Skyline, and the longitudinal G, or the acceleration, the extreme is down here. That would be the yellow one, which is the Skyline. So technically, the Yaris can corner harder, but the Skyline accelerates harder. But yeah, they're both very close in terms of actual lap time, as you can see. 1 minute 48.46 and 1 minute 48.453. Super close. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.